Hey, we are here in beautiful French Polynesia. How did we get here? Well, we took the very first step, getting off the dock.
Here we are, over 10,000 nautical miles from where we started in Florida. And we thought we would do a video about getting off the dock and what it takes, what you need to know. Not necessarily what you need to have, what you need to know. Not about what it takes to get around the world, across an ocean, or across the southern seas. There may be a few more things on this list. This is get out there. Get off the dock, go cruising.
Take that first step.
Take that first step. You do not need to have owned a smaller boat. You do not need to have gone on offshore passages through a professional company. You don't have to employ a professional company to give you routing advice or weather advice or just general advice when you have questions. There are great services out there. I have one even I could recommend that I've heard great things about from fellow cruisers if you'd like to know, but you don't need it. You don't need to know what's in the Chapman pilot book from cover to cover. That thing is intimidating. If you do know it from cover to cover, great.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch this video. But you don't need those things. They're all nice to have, not necessary.
Here's what you do need to know.
Electrical. What I mean by that is the ability to trace where power is coming from on 12 volts at the least. Most, if not all, the critical systems in your boat probably run on 12 volts, and you need to be able to know where that power is coming from, going to, is it getting supplied? Oftentimes when something breaks on the boat, it's not actually that component. It's simply a connection that corroded. It's rough out here. You need to be able to trace, is that item, is that pump, is that whatever it is getting power? Start there. Simple multimeter stuff. Being able to change connections, being able to check and replace fuses. I can't tell you how far that's going to get you in terms of keeping your boat working.
That's right. Nate is always asking for two things on the boat, his multimeter and his multi-tool.
Keeping your boat afloat. Boats have surprising number of holes in them.
Don't leave the dock if your boat is going to sink.
Or if you aren't confident about how to keep it afloat, you need to know where all your through hulls are. Those are holes in your boat that are underneath the water and above the water. You need to know where water drains in your boat. Scout has 6 compartments, 3 in each hulls. We got a bilge pump in each one. You need to know how those bilge pumps work. You need to know how to replace them. You need to know, you need to be able to know how water gets in and goes out of your boat.
You've got your running rigging. It's incredibly important to understand what each of those lines are doing and how to rig them, what to do if they fail, and how to use them. You know, how do you trim your traveler or raise your mainsail, or what happens if your jib furler breaks when you've got your sail out. These are things that you've got to know how to do.
That's right. We've had our main halyard become inoperable, stuck in a block. We've had a forward halyard blow in the middle of the ocean. We've had our clew ripped twice. I know that's not exactly running rigging. What are you going to do if something goes wrong? But if you know what your running rigging does, you know how to sail.
If you've watched our channel before, you know we've had long debates about reefing. Having a really good reefing schedule and knowing it and knowing it and sticking to it. Reefing is incredibly important for your safety, for your boat safety. You do not want to get overpowered, especially at night when part of your crew is trying to sleep. It just makes it way more uncomfortable underway. Not to mention the safety hazards. If you have too much sail up at night and a big blow comes, a big squall pops up out of nowhere and you get overpowered, then someone's having to deal with that in the dark, in stormy conditions. It's the last time you want to do it. Reef early and reef when you first think you need to. It's always better to have less sail up. And honestly, it won't make you go that much slower. So we usually do, depending on the conditions, we usually put 1 or 2 reefs in at night and just to make our sleeping conditions better, more comfortable, make us just sleep a little bit easier. So even if a squall does pop up, we're not frantic.
That's right, and it's usually more about what the crew wants to deal with and what the boat is capable of dealing with, and being prepared for sort of the worst case scenario. So we often have less sail up than we easily could, and it's just because if a squall comes along, that's fine. We don't have to change our sail. Maybe we'll fall off the wind a little bit, but we don't have to worry about putting a reef in the main under big winds. That's not what we want to do, and we sacrifice a little bit of speed for that, and that's fine. Cruising is not about winning races. Cruising is about not getting overpowered and getting there. Power itself, so you're off grid out here. Unless you're really hopping from marina to marina, which at some point you're going to have to live a little while off grid. We live virtually entirely off grid. Where's your power coming from? How much of it is coming in? How much storage you have? Understanding all of that. We get almost all of our power from solar. There are other boats that run a generator with battery chargers more often than we do. There are other boats with a big, powerful alternator. So there's different ways to get power out here, but understand how much of it is coming in and how much of it you store, which then gets to the other side of the equation is power usage, making sure that those two things are balanced.
Yeah, that's right. So when we first bought Scout, I was down in the kitchen. I had the toaster oven going, maybe the tea kettle and the blender. And oops, what happened? Our power went out. I was used to living on land, and I could run all of those things without thinking about it. But living remote, living off grid, you do have to be somewhat aware of your usage, what you're using at the same time. You just do not want to overpower your inverter or your battery capacity.
Yep. And look, there's all different ways to set up that equation. So we have a bigger inverter than we had when we bought the boat. We have a lot more solar than we had when we bought the boat. There are boats out there with bigger inverter and more solar power than we have. There are boats out there with a lot less. So it's not about like, hey, must have X or Y. It is about, you must understand your boat, what your balances are between power coming in and power going out, and live within those.
Yeah, your lifestyle. So if you can't give up certain things, you have to be able to run your blender and your toaster oven at the same time. You have to make allowances for that in your system and upgrade it to being able to support that. Or what we do is I just run my big heavy kitchen electronics one at a time. I don't run more than one big heavy draw at one time.
Yeah, and there's plenty of boats out there with zero, call it land-based appliances.
Yeah.
And that's great too.
Yeah.
You can absolutely get anywhere you want to go, living that way too.
Yeah.
Navigation.
I think that's a big one.
Well, and what I mean this in the most basic sense of not running into anything above or below the water. I'm not talking about, like, again, cross ocean sail routing here.
Getting your paper charts out with your parallel rulers and your sextant.
No, I am talking about knowing where your boat is and knowing what is around your boat and having the ability to not run into anything, not get yourself into trouble. It could be a system on your boat, your plot charter that is built in. More and more boats these days just use iPads with a handful of apps. Navionics, Predict Wind, and Anchor Alarm. Those will get you a long way. We've got both. I use
all three.
Well, no, I have all those apps, but I use an iPad or even my iPhone, frankly, for my primary navigation. But I've got a chart plotter on the boat that I can use as well. And if I've got multiple of everything, but if my handheld device went out, I could get where I needed to go with the boat system. So point is, there's different ways to skin that cat. Just be comfortable in what you've got, to know where you are and what's around your boat. The only thing that exceeds the number of pipes, tubes that are running through your boat as the number of wires that are running through your boat. Some people have more luck with the house water pump than I have. I have woken up or heard the phrase, honey, the water is out, more times than I would like. Even if your house water pump is a champ, there's pumps all over the place.
Bilge pumps.
Shower pumps, filling the toilet pump. One of them's going to go out, or something else is going to go wrong with your plumbing. If you have a water maker, knowing all the components, just being able to troubleshoot and figure that out. It's actually, to me, it's not hard at all. And the first thing to do is, if a pump goes out, don't change the pump, check the power. But you need to be comfortable with your plumbing on your boat. Otherwise, the faucet goes out and you're not going to know what to do.
The first night that you leave the dock, where are you going to go? You're going to go to an anchorage, and you need to know how to anchor your boat. We didn't, so maybe this is hindsight is 2020. But having a good understanding of what good anchoring is, you need to know how much scope to lay out in the depth of water. You need to know how to put your bridle on. We see it all the time. Charter boats come in and out, and people do not know how to deploy their bridle in the correct way. Putting too much stress on your windlass is going to do it a lot of harm, and that is one of the most critical pieces of equipment you have on your boat. Knowing what a good set anchor looks like. Get in every time you drop your hook. You need to get in and swim on it. Make sure that it's really well set. I mean, maybe not every single time, but we do most of the time.
Whenever it's feasible, or whenever I'm worried about it at all.
Yeah.
I do. The most important thing, whatever works for you, whatever your ratios are, your rules of thumb, how you anchor, you got to be comfortable with it.
Yeah, and get a good set of merit savers. I'm always promoting those.
Engines. You've got one or more than one diesel engine on the boat. If you're a diesel engine mechanic, professional in some shape or form, man, you're ahead of the game. I envy you. For the rest of us, even though I don't think you have to be a professional diesel engine mechanic, I do think you have to have a thorough understanding of the fuel system. If your engine cuts out, more often than not, the reason is something to do with fuel. There could be air in the fuel, there could be dirt in the fuel, there's an algae bacteria that grows on some of the additives that you get in diesel in certain places. So just understanding where the fuel comes in, and then there's the diesel return line, how to troubleshoot it. If there is air in the system, it may not happen to you in the course of your entire time. You may be plagued with a problem. Once you do get it right, it tends to go away, which is great in the sense of it'll last for a long time. But you need to be able to troubleshoot it. You will get dirty fuel at some point out here that tends to overcome even the best efforts of fuel filters or fuel additives that you can add in after the fact. So just be comfortable with that. And if your engine cuts out, being able to go and troubleshoot that in a relatively efficient manner, so that if an engine goes out at the wrong time,
which is when it's going to go out, you know how you're going to deal with that. And there's sometimes may be that if an engine goes out in the wrong time, you're going to throw a sail out and get steerage through your jib, or throw an anchor down, or whatever the case may be. But being comfortable to troubleshoot your fuel system is something that I think is a get off the dock requirement. Of all of the things that we're talking about, your number one most important thing that you need to have in order to leave that dock is a willingness to learn. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Things go wrong. Things do go wrong on a boat. No one is out here judging you. Everyone's been there. Everyone has bad days. So don't be afraid to leave the dock because you're afraid someone's watching you and they're going to judge you as you uncleat your cleat hitch the wrong way, or jump on your boat the wrong way, or make a fool of yourself as you're coming back into the harbor. We've all done it. It's the only way to learn is to do it. So
Right, but sure, nobody's going to judge you, but being willing to learn, being willing to make mistakes, being willing to, uh, you know, something goes wrong. One of my favorite questions is like, all right, what did we learn there? What are we going to do different next time based on how that went? And so yeah, you may get off the dock. I did this list of 10 things or whatever it is. I wasn't comfortable in all this stuff when I left the dock. Maybe I left the dock too soon, but I'm still out here, like sitting in French Polynesia, learning. So you got to be willing to get your hands dirty and do it. And if you're willing to do that, then that is the most important thing.
Yep, and the sailing community is great. Ask questions. People are always willing to help. Be willing to take those risks and get out here. We would love to see you out on the water. It is such an amazing adventure and a great lifestyle, and it's worth all those times of uncertainty, second guessing, feeling like you're asking stupid questions, making mistakes. It's all worth it. Just get out here and do it. You won't regret it.
And we wanted that list to sound approachable. Yeah. Like, that is not your old salt list of, oh my God, you got to be able to swap out an alternator and da 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 da.
Don't listen to the naysayers, and they're going to be out there. We trusted ourselves enough, and we trusted our boat enough to know that we wanted this adventure, and we were willing to do it. Maybe we got lucky, and we certainly do not know everything or even close. We were still learning. No, that's definitely true.
But being out here, I can say that we're not alone. Like, at that point when we left the dock, it was super scary. It's like, man, maybe we shouldn't go. Right. There are plenty of people out here that got off the dock the same way we did. There would be a different list, a more robust list that I would come up with for crossing an ocean.
That's right.
This is a get off the dock list.
Right, and take baby steps. I mean, don't make your first passage be the Pacific Ocean or crossing the Atlantic. Take baby steps. Keep yourself safe, and use the noggin, and you'll go a long way.
It was months and months before we even sailed at night.
Yeah.
No,
that's right.
Just take it slow, but you can take it slow off the dock. You can get out of here.
Yeah, you can do it.
All right.
We're happy for you. Go adventuring! Yay!
Get off the dock.